Hello, everybody! Welcome back to the Hartford Whalers expansion franchise here on NHL 24. In this episode, we're going to sim ahead 15 games as we work towards the trade deadline. Our Hartford Whalers currently at 21, 24, and 1 as we're 6th in the Metro, about 4 points out of a playoff spot. So we haven't really been playing good hockey this season, although we did finish off pretty well last time out, winning 4 out of 5. Today we'll pick it up here with the New York Islanders, who have been a very strong team thus far in the series. I believe they made the Stanley Cup last year. So we'll start here with this game simulate, and how our next few games go is really going to dictate our approach in terms of the trade deadline. So we are going to hit the trade deadline. I'm not sure if we're going to have it at the end of this episode or squeeze it in at the start of next episode. It just kind of depends how fast it takes us to get there. We might even make some trades before the trade deadline, depending how this goes. And we start off down 2-0, Vakanainen in a shorthanded goal, and Johnson for Hallby as well. So 2-0 Islanders going into the second. And then we 2-2 in that period as Tom Wilson and Tyson Barrie get us on the board. And then we let up one more there as Bailey scores. So we start here with a loss, 5-2 there against the Islanders. Now we'll have a road game here against the Oilers, who are doing very well at 30, 12, and 4. Currently second in the West, only behind Anaheim, who are sitting at 37, 8, and 2. So a very good season thus far from the young Anaheim Ducks. And we're just going to check out the lines and make sure that Mrazek's out here. We don't want to give Markstrom back-to-back games. And after this episode, I've been kind of saying it the last couple episodes, we might not even have Mrazek or Markstrom on the roster after today. We'll see how it goes, like I've been saying. And we fall down 2-1 there. Cuylle Yamamoto on the power play, and Connor McMichael gets his first goal of the year after being inserted into the lineup not too long ago. No scoring there in the second, and let's live sim this third period and see if we can tie it up and hopefully come away with a win. Wins have been very hard to come by this season. Now about halfway through the period, shots pretty much total 29-31, Edmonton the advantage. Now less than 5 left, and this might end in a 2-1 defeat as the Oilers do take it. Good goaltending from Mrazek in backup relief duties, 30 saves on 32 shots, and Skinner, a very good performance. He's set to be a free agent at the end of the year, and he's someone we'll definitely consider bringing in to fill our goaltending void. And so after starting the episode 0-2, I am actually going to try and work a trade here, and we're just going to buy in to the rebuild. Not really a rebuild, but we're going to commit to this year being our bridge year. You know, we were a playoff team last season, but it's just not quite working out. And I think in the offseason, a couple free agent pieces, and we'll be right back to where we were last year. But for now, we're going to try and move on from a couple veteran guys on one-year deals who we're definitely not bringing back. And that brings us here to the San Jose Sharks, who have started an astounding 30, 13, and 4 as they've really took the next step forward in their rebuild. Have a very nice young core of forwards there, and they're really hitting their stride. Also a nice mix of veterans on that team. So Victor Arvidsson is going to be a guy we try and move here. 32 years old, so still some hockey ahead of him, although a very bad season for us. Only 9 points in over half the season, minus 25. And he has been good, an expansion pick from the Kings back in episode 1. And he's played pretty much every game, missed 6 combined the past couple of years, although he has been out there every game for us this year. So he's going to end his tenure with the Hartford Whalers with an even 100 points in just over 200 games. So we thank you for your service, Victor Arvidsson, but we are going to try and move on. It just hasn't worked out this year. And he is going to provide an upgrade for the Sharks on their third or fourth line as a right-handed shot. Brings up some playoff experience. Let's see how many playoff goals he has in his playoff career. Here we go. He had 1 with us last year, 7 points with the Kings his prior playoff, and going back all the way to 2016, 2017, a 13-point playoff there with the Predators. So 78 postseason games, and you know, this young Sharks team, they need guys with that postseason experience. And we're going to try and package someone else in this deal, and that'll bring us to Dmitry Orlov. Now, 34 years old, he has seen some regression this year as he's aged. 42 games, 11 points, minus 3. And he's played in almost every game in the series. Orlov, he's been good. He was signed in episode 2, along with Patrick Kane, 2 early additions to this team. And both of these guys have played in almost every single game in this series, but their play has really declined, and we'll give them a change of scenery. Orlov, a former Stanley Cup champion, so a team like the Sharks would value his wisdom and playoff experience, and they could use an upgrade there on their third defensive pairing. So now it all comes down to compensation, and I'm not really sure where to start as a base. Of course, you would like a draft pick. We are down a 3 and a 4 this year, so I would definitely like to recoup at least a 3, and we still have some wiggle room. Maybe we could even make it a 2 for next year. I don't think that would quite work, but I wouldn't mind giving up these 2 guys for just a 2 straight up, and they are rejecting it. What if we retain salary? I don't know how much that'll affect it, but we'll go ahead and retain salary on both of these guys, as I don't think it really makes a big impact, both on one-year deals, and we have the cap space. So if that sweetens the deal for San Jose, we'll try and make it work. So it looks like we retain just under $5 million and still rejected. So maybe we have to throw a draft pick in. We also have a 2 from Boston. Oh, that reminds me. Actually, one of our owner goals this year is to acquire another second-round pick for the season. So I think we actually try and get San Jose's 2 this year. And I actually got it done straight up. So interesting. They don't want to part with their second next year, but they will this year. And I'm honestly kind of surprised they just went with that. I thought we'd have to negotiate a little bit, but all right. So we have 3 second-round picks in this year's draft, and we do accomplish an owner goal. So now we do have to call up 2 players. Now what's our defensive core looking like right now? So we have 6. Samuel Bolduc is going to be bumped into a full-time starting job for now, but we do have to call up one more guy. Peter DeLibertor, he has been out in the AHL for us this whole series, probably deserving of a spot. Hunter Brzustewicz, a 21-year-old right-handed defenseman, our second-round pick in our inaugural draft class back in episode 2. And Daniil Cuylle, 75 overall, acquired at the deadline in year 1 in the Matt Grzelcyk deal. So I think Cuylle definitely needs probably to finish out the year in the AHL, maybe battle for a spot next year in the preseason, although I don't even know if he'll be ready by that point. So it really comes down here to DeLibertor, 2-way defender. Does he have any NHL experience? Actually hasn't even played in an NHL game. His third year here with the Poughkeepsie Panthers, over 20 points all of these years, like a good plus-minus as well. So he's paid his dues. Definitely not a full-time starter, but not a bad 7th defenseman. And I do like Hunter Brzustewicz as well. We do need a right-handed shot, and he's like a high floor, low ceiling type guy. So I think he'll be a solid player for us with that top 6 defenseman potential. But I think we'll call up DeLibertor just to be our 7th D-man. And if an injury or something happens, maybe Brzustewicz gets the call up and he goes into a starting spot. So DeLibertor will get the call up. He'll be on the Hartford Whalers roster for the first time in this series. Now we do have to call up a forward as well. And we got a few options here. Will Cuylle, definitely deserving of a spot. He's been solid here. 3 years with the Poughkeepsie Panthers. Has 4 games of NHL experience with the Rangers. He came over as the expansion pick from New York. Gage Gonsalves, our expansion pick from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Probably his best season, on pace for a lot of points. 42 already in 47 games. He's seen a lot of progression here in the past couple years. But I do like the power forward from Cuylle, and I think that we're going to try and move on from Marcus Foligno in this episode as well, so that will kind of open up a spot there on the 4th line, which I think Will Cuylle could fill. So he'll get the call up for now, and Gage Gonsalves not too far behind him. So that trade certainly shakes things up a bit as we get rid of 2 longtime Hartford Whalers. And now we have a couple road games here against Toronto, and they are in line for a playoff spot. So that really leaves Jacob Markstrom and Peter Mrazek, who we may look to trade, maybe at the deadline or maybe at some point in this episode, still to be determined. Mangiapane puts us up 1-0 here against the Leafs on the power play. We get another one here. Issa Lindell made it 2-0, but Joshua gets one late. 2-1 here. We'll simulate the rest. And we are going to overtime here against the Leafs. Austin Matthews on the power play. Jonathan Toews put him up 3-2, but a late goal here by Mark Scheifele ties us up with 47 seconds. So we will jump into this one. We'll get a live look in and see how we finish here against the Leafs in overtime. And now we are here from Scotiabank Arena, and we're going to watch some hockey. There's Liljegren off the face-off draw, and he has a lot of space going forward. One-on-one against the goalie, and that's off the post. He beat the glove there of Markstrom, and I don't know how he let that opportunity up. What a defensive lapse that was to start this overtime period. And now Matthews in the soft spot as Markstrom gloves that. 4 minutes left in this overtime period. 2 good chances for the Maple Leafs. Now John Tavares on the draw, accompanied there by William Nylander. Nylander takes it off the tie-up. Liljegren a shot, blocked away by Markstrom. Battle there against the boards, picked up by Ivan Provorov. A 2-0 here for Hartford. Mark Scheifele with it in front. His shot denied. And Provorov puts it home on the rebound, and Hartford takes the win. Nice road win here for Hartford. They got the late goal there in the third period. Scheifele with 47 seconds, and now he gets the assist on the victory. A good response after trading Viktor Arvidsson and Dmitry Orlov, and this new look squad gets the win in their first game together. Provorov right there to put the rebound home, and some good action, and it didn't take long here in Toronto. Big rig as Mark Scheifele 3 assists as he'll extend his points lead, and Provorov just got that home against the pad of Samsonov. Good win here by the Whalers, and you love an overtime victory. A great win there against the Leafs. And now we have a road game here against Vegas, who have really fallen off here in the past couple of seasons. And that was Ivan Provorov's 8th goal already with the Whalers. What a great addition to the blue line he's been. No scoring there in the first period. And now 1-1 after the second. Provorov another goal as he picks up right where he left off. And then we will live sim this third period and see if anyone scores. We're almost doubling the shots here. Actually, Vegas made up some ground as they got a bunch of shots off there, and they score. Jonathan Marchessault on the power play. They take the lead. We were doubling their shots just about. Now they've fought their way back, and now Mark Scheifele puts one home, and it's tied 2-2, less than 5 minutes in regulation. And then Brock Besser with less than 2 minutes left, and then Mark Scheifele on the empty net. A flurry of goals there from the Whalers to close, and we take this one in Vegas, 4-2. Mark Scheifele, another 3-point performance. 2 goals. Provorov, another goal. And Brock Besser, the game-winning goal late. And we get some breaking news here. The New Jersey Devils have fired head coach Xavier Gray. Let's see where they were in the standings. We will just actually get a standings update here, I suppose. Our Whalers 23-26-1. And what are we looking at? We're currently 6 points out of a playoff spot. So, I mean, it's not impossible, but just the way we've been playing all year, not likely. And the Devils at 18-28-4 have fired their coach. And what are they looking like over their last 10? 3-6-1 over their last 10. The Penguins 1-6-3. As these teams have kind of fallen to the bottom of the division. The Capitals, Flyers, and us, not too far separation. Let's look at the entire league. And the Ducks, who we're about to play, are at the top by 9 points over the Oilers. 78 points here for Anaheim. What are their lines looking like? Aho, they signed a couple years ago from Carolina. Troy Terry, Trevor Zegras. They're at left wing, Alexander Komatov. He was the 2nd overall pick in the 2023 entry draft. Back in episode 2, or would that have been the 2024 entry draft? Not quite sure. The Oilers, Sharks, who we just traded with, and Panthers atop the East, and the Lightning not too far behind them. So 2 Florida teams up there, Chicago, Detroit, Colorado. And that's just all we'll do for now. So now we'll continue moving along here, and we'll simulate this game against the Ducks. And like I said, the Ducks, the best team in the NHL this season. So we'll see how we hold up after putting together back-to-back wins. No scoring there in the first. And we actually go up 2-0 here. Mark Scheifele, another goal for him. And Nolan Patrick scores on the power play. So let's sim this third period. And we hang on. We go up 3-0. Zadina a goal after being reinserted into the lineup a few games back. And Alexander Komatov, who I aforementioned, the 2nd overall pick a few drafts back, he gets a late one as Markstrom can't get home with the shutout. He does stop 32 out of 33 en route to being named the first star. A couple assists for Tom Wilson, and Nolan Patrick, the third star, with a goal and a few hits. So 3 wins after trading away Arvidsson and Orlov, and maybe that kind of helped things here. I really just hope this isn't a situation where we start playing good hockey towards the end of the year, but just not good enough to make a playoff spot, and then we just end up being like the last team in the draft order in the lottery. And now we have Florida here, who's atop the Eastern Conference, so back-to-back tough games for us, although we do start a homestand, followed by the Kings and then Pittsburgh. And we jump up 2-1 here. Fisher gets an early one, but then Zadina and then Sami Maki, love to see him scoring. He gets a late one there, just 27 seconds left. Hartford up 2-1, although the Panthers double our shots, 16-8. No scoring there after the second. And now we will just live sim this third period and see if we can hang on against another good opponent. On the power play here for the Whalers, and we don't score. Although we are getting a lot of shots here in the third, now more than halfway through. Now just less than 5 left in regulation. Are we going to win another 1-goal game, less than a minute? And we hang on, just 1 goal allowed on 37 shots. And Jacob Markstrom putting together a good string of performances, boosting his trade value perhaps. Although maybe he's going to make us hang on to him. This is going to be a tough call if we keep winning games. I think that's a 4-game win streak, and now we've won 7 of our last 10. And we have not seen this type of play since this second episode of this Year 3 season. I'll just jump into another one here, sim this against the Kings. 1-1 after the first, Sam Steele. Cuylle there for the Kings. 2-2 after 2, Quentin Byfield on the power play. Brock Besser against Jeremy Swayman. He was acquired at the first trade deadline back in year 1. Now live simming in this third period. A low shot total for each side. Just about 40 combined in the game. Now less than 10 left in regulation. And we're still tied here. Now less than 5 minutes left. And the Kings get a late one there from Archibald. And then Zadina answers right back 15 seconds later. What an answer. And we're going to jump into this one as well and see if we can finish strong, this time at home in overtime. And now we're set here from the XL Center. Kempe on the draw against Mark Scheifele. He's been extremely productive during this win streak we have going. Drew Doughty with it, overtaken Wilson to Scheifele, and he has some space. Scheifele on Swayman, and a good save there by Swayman. Jeremy Swayman set to be a free agent, as I mentioned with Stuart Skinner earlier, someone we might make a run at if he's available there on the open market. Now the draw to the left of Swayman here in Hartford's offensive zone, won by Kempe back to Doughty. Drew Doughty, the longtime Los Angeles King. He has some space as Provorov goes towards Kempe. Kempe is shot, and that goes wide. Behind the net now, Kempe with it. Back to the point for Fiala. Now Doughty in front. Kempe now. And a pad save there on a weak shot. Markstrom freezes. 3:30 remaining. Another face-off win there as Clark shoots that wide, and that goes out of play. We'll do it again, this time to the right of Markstrom. Tied up there. Loose puck picked up by Scheifele behind the net. He gives for Provorov. Provorov takes it into the zone. Poked away. Recovered by Provorov behind the net now for Wilson. Tom Wilson in front for Provorov. Loose puck picked up by Kempe. Now for Mikey Anderson. He's laid out by Tom Wilson, but a 2-on-1 develops here for Hartford. I'm sorry, for Los Angeles. And Provorov able to intercept that on the pass. Now he goes for Scheifele. A 2-on-1 now for Hartford. They have some space. Scheifele patient. Works towards the net. A shot! And that's off the post. What a rip in front. Picked up now by Provorov. Long pass for Scheifele. Now in front for Wilson. That's blocked. A good block there. Giving up the body by the Kings defenseman. Quentin Byfield now takes it in. Over for Mikey Anderson. And he finishes 1-on-1 there with Markstrom as the Kings take it. A hectic, chaotic overtime. And the Kings end up with it. Mark Scheifele just hit the post moments earlier. And then the Kings go down and they finish it. Still a 5-game point streak here for the Whalers, although the Kings do snap the 4-game winning streak as they take this one at the XL Center. And a good finish there by Anderson on the deke as he finished forehand. And we're going to fall here on home ice. What a deke there by Anderson. And we just give up too much space here in overtime, it seems. But we'll take the point streak, though. We get one here. as Hartford playing very good hockey, although we do fall here 4-3. So we'll just keep moving it along here. We're sporting a 5-game point streak, and we're set here against the Penguins, who are one of the worst teams in the NHL, as we just reviewed prior to that last game. So let's see if we can keep up our successful play as we do jump ahead 2-0. A power play goal from Provorov, and then Leo Carlsson gets one about 2 minutes later. And then they do get one back there from Mason Appleton. And now let's sim the third period. And we do get out with a win. Mark Scheifele adds another one, and then Sean Walker on the empty net. So Scheifele, the game-winning goal with 5:56 left. He's been super clutch in this episode thus far. Now we're set for a little road trip here at Nashville, Buffalo, and Winnipeg. See if we can keep this streak going now. 6-game point streak. And remember, last year we actually had an 18-game point streak around this time in the season. We'll jump up 2-1, a power play goal from Mangiapane, and Tom Wilson gets one 30 seconds later, and Schmaltz, a shorthanded one, puts the Predators on the board. Still 2-1 after the second, and now we're going to overtime again in this episode. Novak and Fabro put the Predators up 2 goals there within 46 seconds, and then Jake Evans gets one. We won't jump into this overtime, we'll just sim it, as it is going to a shootout, and we fall here in a shootout to Nashville. So still, a 6-game point streak or 7-game point streak. And Ali Lykesell there in Poughkeepsie is hurt. And we'll just let the CPU manage that. Now we'll try to defend this 7-game point streak here on the road against the Sabres. They've actually developed into a very good team here over the course of this series, and they currently hold a wild card spot. We jump up 1-0. Tom Wilson, an early goal there against Bobrovsky. No scoring in the second. And we actually post a shutout here. 2 goals from Tom Wilson. And I think it's going to be Markstrom Mrazek, a 23-save shutout. Tom Wilson, the first star. Bobrovsky, the second star. So an 8-game point streak. We've won 6 of our last 8. And now we'll face here Scheifele's former team, the Winnipeg Jets, on the road. And I think that only leaves about 7 more games to the prior to the trade deadline. So we should be able to work out of this episode fairly quickly. Although we might jump into another live look-in. Former Hartford Whaler expansion pick, Jordan Martinook, scores the first goal of the game, 1-0 after 1. And they get 2 more there, Clegg and Ryan Donato on the power play. But Philip Zadina gets us on the board. So 3-1 going into the third. And we do tie it up. Scott Lawton, a goal, and then he ties it up with 10 seconds left. So 2 third-period goals from Scott Lawton. And I might as well just jump into probably our last live look-in of the episode. So we're 1-1 in overtime in this episode thus far. Let's see if we could split it and make it 2-1. So we do advance the point streak now to 8 games. As Scheifele a chance right off the bat, and he scores off the face-off in his former arena. So former Winnipeg Jet puts it home, and the Hartford Whalers are flying high. 7 wins in our last 9, and this point streak is getting into double-digit territory. I did not see that coming. And that's funny how we responded after trading Arvidsson and Orlov. And this team is just clicking. Really what we've been missing all year. I kind of expected us to be a little more stable, but we've been hot and cold. But now we're putting together some good play, and maybe, just maybe, we'll equip ourselves for a playoff run. So with that win, we're only 4 points out of a playoff spot, with just over 30 games left in the season. I'm sorry, just over 20 games, 25 games left in the season. Now here we're hosting the Dallas Stars, as they're one of the bottom teams in the West. Scott Lawton, another goal early on in this one, as we jump up 1-0 after 1. And now we're tied up 2-2 after 2. Tanner Howe, Marcus Foligno, and Bork on the board for Dallas. So we will live sim this third period as Tom Wilson puts us ahead. Another early period goal. And another one there from Wilson, this time on the power play, as he nets 2 less than 4 minutes apart. Then Tanner Howe gets another one. So 4-3, a lot of scoring early on in the third. And then Kapanen ties it up. And now less than 5 left. Looks like we might be headed for another overtime, as we are, but the point streak does hit 10 games officially. And we'll live sim this overtime and see if we can come away with an overtime win on home ice. Less than 2 minutes left. Shots 37-30 in favor. And Sammy Maki, the number 1 overall pick from last year, puts it home. And Hartford has now won, is that 8 of our last 10 now? What a run. Now 8-0-2. And Samuel Bolduc is hurt for a little bit, so we'll have to replace him on the blue line. And that's a kind of bizarre, as he's been waiting for his turn. And finally we give it to him. And he only lasts about 16 games. Does record his first point with the Whalers. -2 effort thus far. So, like I said, De Liberatore, maybe we'll just throw him in there. Although, we might go to the AHL and maybe bring up Brzustewicz. So now we are ready to roll, and I'll give you an updated look at our lines. Our top 3 really have stayed the same throughout this episode. But this 4th line, we actually have now scratched Marcus Foligno, as we're going to try and trade him here for probably a late round draft pick. Really like what Foligno has brought to the table thus far, as we'll get a look at his numbers. 21 points this year, and he's been a solid producer there on the 3rd and 4th line throughout this series. Has played in just about every single game. Our expansion pick from Minnesota, he's been one of the most active fighters in the league, so we've loved his grit and jam. But at 34 years old now and on an expiring deal, we just really don't have long-term plans for him. We'll try and bring in a player of a similar mold here in the upcoming offseason. But for now, I think Foligno, we're going to try and get him on a contender, someone who can kind of bolster their toughness with his addition to the bottom line. So now on the blue line, Sammy Maki is now accompanied by Tyson Barrie. They spent time together on the top pairing last year, but Maki has now primarily been with Ivan Provorov, as they've been a very good pairing. Sammy Maki, 20 points now, 10 goals, 10 assists, and that far exceeds his totals from last season. And now Lindell will have with Hunter Brzustewicz, who is set to make his NHL debut. He had 23 points this year with Poughkeepsie, as he's come over from the Kitchener Rangers from the OHL. He was our 2nd round pick in 2023, so we drafted Leo Carlsson that year, and then Brzustewicz was the next pick. Take a look at some of his stats. And it looks like he actually has good puck skills for a defenseman. Decent skater as well, decent physical game. Not that great of a shot, although he does offer some good power, but his accuracy, not that great. So only a 76 overall. We don't expect too much from him, but we kind of want to send him up, get his feet wet, as he's probably our most pro-ready of our young prospects down there. And then Pierre De Liberatore just made his NHL debut at a +1, and he's down there on the bottom line with Sean Walker. Goaltending, of course, we have Markstrom and Mrazek, 2 guys who maybe we'll move on from in the next episode, as we're going to start next episode with the trade deadline. So with that, we'll continue moving on here. And I think we just have 3 or 4 more games left, and then we're going to wrap up this episode. So Vancouver, we now visit, and they've won 8 of their last 10, coming in at 29, 25, and 4, trying to make a little late playoff surge of their own. So each of these 2 teams kind of in a similar spot. And they jump up 3-1. Will Cuylle, though, in his first game as a Hartford Whalers, scores just a minute in. His first career NHL point just 4 games prior with the Rangers, and now he's making an early impact after being inserted into the lineup for Marcus Foligno. No second, then Quinn Hughes gets 1 as well. And we give up 2 more, although we do get 2. So Tom Wilson scores, Scott Lawton on the shorthanded. Elias Peterson with the power play goal, and Podkolzin made it 5-3. So 1 more period of play, which will sim, and we tie it up. Mangiapane, and then former Vancouver Canuck Brock Besser with the game-tying goal, which is 2:12 left, as he scores in his former arena. So we saw Scheifele moments ago score against his former team to win it in overtime, and now Brock Besser, a timely game-tying goal. We'll live sim this overtime period as we are out shooting Vancouver 41-31. Now less than 2 minutes left here in the overtime, as it looks like we're going to get a shootout. And we take it in the shootout. Mark Scheifele, the lone scorer, and Hartford wins another one. I cannot believe the play. And another injury to the blue line as Tyson Barrie day-to-day. These injuries to our defensemen just racking up. That might be like 3 games in a row with an injury to the blue line. And now we're set here against the Blues, and they come in as the bottom team in the Central, although the bottom team in the West right now is Vegas. See if we can string together back-to-back wins and a bunch of post-regulation wins in this episode. You'd love to see that. That's been an area where we've really struggled to get wins, but not so much in this episode. And we do fall 3-0 here. Mrazek in net. A power play goal to Brzustewicz. Teravainen, his second season with the Blues, and then Pareko made it 3-0. We do get 2 back here. Teravainen, another one for St. Louis, but Zadina and Brock Besser, he scores in back-to-back games. So now down 4-2 going into the third. And we let up a few more. Nick Foligno, the brother of Marcus Foligno, gets on the board. It was 7-2. Mrazek let up 7 goals in this game. Probably should have pulled him at one point. And then Karlsson, a late one to restore some dignity, although a 7-3 lead against a last-place team never good. As Teravainen, I didn't even notice, actually had a hat trick. And Cuylle, 4 assists. Luke Kunin, 3 assists. What a good game there from St. Louis, and our worst loss here in this episode. An AHL injury. And only 2 more games left in this episode, and then we'll call it a day and pick it up next time with the trade deadline. Now here against Carolina, who come in on a 10-game point streak at least, 8-0-2 over their last 10. And now with 21 games left in the season, we actually only trail the Islanders by 3 points for a wild card spot. See if we can rebound here on the road against Carolina, who have been among the hottest teams in the league over the past couple weeks. Nietzsche made it 1-0 early. It's tied up after 2. Zadina on the power play, Lawton, and then Nieto tied it up late in the second. So we'll live sim this third period. Carolina outshooting us 32-20, but Cuylle a go-ahead goal, and then Toffoli ties it up not even 2 minutes later. We're now on the power play. Although Leeson scores for Carolina, as we don't convert on that power play. They're outshooting us 42-24 as they get another one from Toffoli. Now a 5-3 hockey game, less than 5 left in regulation. And we do get a late one there from Cuylle. Can we get another one? We can't. Cuylle 2 goals there in the third. And a high-scoring game here as we give up 44 shots. And our crippled blue line certainly kind of being exposed here. And then we do have just one more game left against Columbus. And luckily, Tyson Barrie is available to play. Now we do have Tyson Barrie back in the lineup. And we have this last game here against Columbus. And they've been a very good team over the last 2 years. But first, I want to bring your attention to Hunter Brzustewicz. He's played in 3 games thus far. And he's actually put up some decent numbers playing on the second pairing here with Esa Lindell. So Brzustewicz, 3 games played, 2 assists, and a +3 over 20 minutes time on ice. So far out exceeding his expectations thus far, albeit in this very small sample size. So we will simulate this last game against Columbus and see if we can go out on a high note. Now 62 games into the year, after this one will be less than 20 left in this year 3 season. And we go up 1-0 Leo Carlsson on former Hartford Whalers Scott Wedgwood, who signed as the backup in Columbus this past offseason. 2-1 after 2, Tom Wilson, and then Donovan Dublowitz, 2023 third overall pick for Columbus. And let's live sim here as Chinnikov ties it up very early. And we'll just live sim this third period as it's the last game here in the episode. Looks like Mrazek is in net for us. And he gives up 2 more. Oh my goodness. And he's not been good. So I don't know if a team really would want to trade for Mrazek. Hunter Brzustewicz, his first career goal. And he makes it 4-3. And then Karlsson ties it up just over a minute later. So a 4-4 hockey game, less than 10 minutes now. And Brzustewicz and Karlsson were back-to-back draft picks in our inaugural draft class. Karlsson 4th overall, and then Brzustewicz 36th overall there, our second round pick. Now less than 4 minutes in regulation. Are we going to get another overtime? And then we just might, less than 1. And we are going to get an overtime. So since it's the last game before the trade deadline, we'll just jump into it and see what happens. I really hope we pulled Mrazek and put Markstrom in. Here we are from the XL Center, and that's Donovan Dublowitz, like I said, the 3rd overall pick from 2023, 1 spot ahead of Leo Carlsson. Esa Lindell with it off the face-off. He loses possession along the boards. Now Johnny Gaudreau, he's already scored in this game. And here's Bachfist, a 2-on-1 developing here. Lindell, not really sure what to do in that situation. Gaudreau from the slot to save Mrazek. A good chance there by Gaudreau to put it home. Now Cuylle on the draw here in his own zone. And he's pushed off the draw there by Dublowitz. Bachfist from the top. Loose puck now Gaudreau. Back to the point for Bachfist. A shot. Blockered away there by Mrazek into the corner. Dublowitz with it against the boards. Fighting with Lindell. Loose puck now picked up by Cuylle. He's going the other way. Passes for Tom Wilson here. Wilson for Scheifele, a nice feed. Scheifele backhand. Stop there. I'm not sure who's in goal. Is that Merzlikins? A shot there from Lindell wide. As that'll go all the way into the other end. Behind the net now. Retrieved by Scheifele. As he springs off Gaudreau. Now Tom Wilson with it. A lot of space here. Lindell back for Wilson as they kind of squander that opportunity in the fast break. Although Wilson recovers. Lindell a shot. And that's saved by Wedgwood. That's right. Wedgwood is in net. Manning the pipes here in his former arena. Scott Wedgwood was actually our winningest goalie heading into this year, but I think at this point Markstrom might have surpassed him. I'll have to double check those numbers. As now Yurcek off the draw will take it up. Now Yurcek in front of the net, and that's Kent Johnson. Good save there by Mrazek. Into the corner. Lindell now up for Carlson as he'll take it out of the zone. Less than a minute now left in overtime. Leo Carlson, the nice feed for Lindell. A shot, and he scores! East Lindell puts it home. And again, Hartford comes away with the post-regulation win. That's 3 overtime wins we've looked at, plus more. What an episode this has turned out to be. And now with the trade deadline looming, I really don't know what to do. I kind of wanted to maybe make a trade and send Markstrom somewhere and get one of our AHL goalies up here and get him some playing time, but I don't know. Our team is just rallying and really holding on. As we take it here on home ice, Lindell nets the game winner, and the Whalers are riding high into the trade deadline. Tremendous effort, and these 1-goal games that we're coming away with have really swung our spot in the standings. Now just a couple points out of a playoff spot. This Whalers team certainly can contend this year. 5-4 from the XL Center. So in this episode, we simmed ahead 17 games. We finished 10-5-2. As we started here in mid-January with back-to-back losses. But after that, we would go on to finish 10-3-2. And how many overtime post-regulation wins, I guess I should say. We had one there against Toronto, one against Winnipeg, one against Dallas, one against Vancouver, one against Columbus. So half of our wins in this episode came in either overtime or a shootout. And like I said earlier, that's an area of our game where we really struggled with leading up to this season, really. So we'll pick it up next episode with the trade deadline, and then we'll only have 19 games left from that point. And it's a very tight race right now. We'll get a look at the standings to kind of close here, and we're currently 2 points out of a spot for a wild card spot. Now, instead of the Metro, we'll go to Eastern Conference, and here we see Tampa Bay and Florida still at the top. Carolina, the Rangers, Detroit, a good year from them. Is there another emerging team this year, along with Ottawa? And then what do we see? So Toronto has the second wild card spot at 67 points. And then we see Buffalo, New York, and us Hartford just 2 away. So 4 teams here, 5 with Boston, same point total as us. So really 5 teams vying for that last playoff spot. And it's going to be close. So next episode, we have some tough decisions to make. I don't know if we quite move on from Markstrom like I was planning. Even Foligno, I don't know. I really wanted to get some playing time for some of those AHL guys that we have, but we're still in the fight, and with this episode, we have a lot of momentum going forward. But before we move on to close this episode, I just wanted to show some progress reports. We haven't touched on that in quite a while. So Leo Carlson now 51 points, already a career high across the board. Goals, assists, points, power play goals, and power play points ties it. So a breakout year from him in his 3rd season, which we really needed. He's now up to an 85 overall. By next year, he'll maybe even hit 88. Behind him, Philip Zadina has seen a tremendous resurgence here, as he was our expansion pick from Detroit. A career year last year with 47 points. He has missed some time this year, but still 16 goals, 15 points, 15 assists, and 31 points. You like that production, and he's really took a step ahead. So for statistical growth, we see there 3 for discipline, 5 offensive awareness, as his senses attributes are very high. More statistical growth there for shooting, more there for defense, as his defensive awareness goes up 5. So he really is a good two-way player. He's very active on the forecheck, on the back check, and he's someone we kind of want to stick around long term. I think he's going to be a unrestricted free agent for the first time this year, I believe, and we'll try and lock him up long term. Some good physical growth there as well. And we will go back to Carlson. I bypassed his progression. 4 there across the board for puck skills. All of his puck skills now at least 94. So an elite guy with the puck. and his playmaker tag certainly holds up. 5 statistical growth there for discipline, 1 for natural, so his discipline now up to 91. A lot of growth here for shooting, all of his attributes at least 85. Some good defensive progression here. Stick checking now at 91. And look at skating. His endurance goes up 6, and his skating all at least 85 besides balance. Good physical progression here. You like that 6'3", 197 frame, and it looks like his physical game is really coming around as well. So Karlsson is going to be a stud for us, and maybe even by next season, he'll be our highest rated player on the roster. But Scott Laughton, he's having a good year at 33 points, although that minus 18 you don't like. And decent progression from him at 31 years old. He's probably hit his ceiling, and I think he's going to be an unrestricted free agent as well. So we have a decision to make this offseason in regards to Scott Laughton. Sam Steele, his first year here with the Hartford Whalers, not much progression to talk about, and 28 points in 63 games. Kind of what you expect from him. 45 last year on a Stanley Cup winning team, and he probably won't be too far underneath that this season. The captain, Mangiapane, another productive year, 44 points, just 6 shy of last year's total, and again, a good plus-minus at plus 10. And he's seeing good statistical growth, too, across the board on a lot of categories. So you like to see that. 29 years old, probably hitting his peak as well. Nolan Patrick, I think he still has some development left. Not a bad year, 22 points in 48 games. Most likely going to surpass his 33-point total from last year and set new career highs. Not much growth, though. Just a few in statistical growth, but he still has that elite exact potential, so I think there's still some left in the tank untapped there from Patrick. And now we get to Brzustewicz, 3 points in 4 games, a plus 4. He sees 1 there for poise, and then 1 there, a few skating categories, but not much growth here from Brzustewicz. Like I mentioned earlier, a high floor, low ceiling type guy, so he probably won't be much more than an 80 overall once he hits his full potential. Eastll and Dell, we signed him to an extension, and he's kind of regressing in a few categories, although he has just scored that game-winning goal in overtime, and I think we only have him for 1 more year, so not a bad contract, and after his 32 age season, we'll probably let him go if he continues to regress a little bit. Now, Sami Maki, 21 points, a huge offensive uptick, and his defensive assertiveness in the defensive zone has really come around as well. Not much growth, but I think kind of like Karlsson, he's someone that'll take a huge step in his 3rd season. Markstrom, I'm sure he's seeing some regression, not much, but he's losing a little bit in natural growth. Now, 36 years old, but he's put together some good games here in this episode, and he's really upped his trade value, I would think. Numbers very, very bad compared to last year, but like I said, he's been better in the second half of the season, and he put together a huge playoff run for us last year as well. Jake Evans, he's having a down year, just 12 points, and I really thought he was going to take a big step this year as his point totals have really regressed. And we do have him for 1 more year, and we probably should have just stuck with him on the 4th line. We tried to bump him up to the second line at times, but it just didn't really work out. Now, Mark Scheifele currently leads our team in points, just 9 behind his last year's total, so he'll probably exceed that in his 2nd year with the Whalers. Other than that, not much potential or not much growth to talk about, although we see some there physical for Brock Besser. But those are really just the guys that are progressing. Tom Wilson, he's having a huge season. He's on pace to set career highs, already 3 short of his career high in points, and I think already a career high in assists with 36. He's made a huge impact for us, and we have him on contract for 2 more seasons after this year. But now we'll go into the system where these are guys who are a little more noteworthy. Frederick Leonard, our 2nd-round pick from the 2024 draft, not last year, but our year 1 offseason. And look at that growth, 9 across the board in puck skills. Hit all his puck skills already over 90, kind of resembling Leo Carlsson. He gets 6 there for discipline, now at 94. 7 for power and shooting. Skating, pretty good, although he still needs to come around a little bit as a skater, probably his biggest knock at this point. But Frederick Leonard, a 6'2", 201 playmaker, elite potential, and he was a 2nd-round pick, and he's actually our highest rated prospect in the system. We talked about Helloo Carlson and Hunter Brzustewicz were our first and second round pick respectively in our first draft. Our third round pick was Scott Ratzlav. He's only played in 4 games thus far in the AHL, but good numbers, a 918 save percentage, 228 goals against. Not much growth this season, but as a 72 overall, I don't know how high his ceiling is, but he could maybe develop into a decent backup goaltender for us. Braden Swartz, he was a third round pick in that same draft, a huge season here in U.S. juniors, and he's seeing decent growth there. 3 across the board in puck skills, but not much else. He's a two-way forward, and he was a gem in that class, so we're hoping he develops into a nice player for us. Luke Toporowski, I think we brought him in last year just to be a filler in the AHL. And really not much potential from him. Linus Brandel, I think he was a late round pick for us in our first draft. Not much progression from him. But Andrei Vorobiev, he was our first round pick in last year's draft, I think 25th overall. And he's really not seeing much growth as well. A 67 overall sniper right wing. Daniil Cuylle, we're hoping he can take a step forward and maybe work onto the roster, although he's not really seeing much growth as well. And that's really it for progress reports. I just wanted to update you a little bit on that just to show you how some of our guys are developing. So this is where I'm going to leave you, folks. Thank you so much for watching. It was a pretty good episode. We made a good trade. We unloaded Victor Arvidsson, Dmitry Orlov, and got a second-round pick in this year's draft. So we're now set with 3 second-round picks. And with the trade deadline coming next episode, maybe we package some of those picks and bring in a good player. I don't know what we're going to do. I honestly have no clue. Maybe we will still look to trade Markstrom or Mrazek or Foligno. Like I said, it's up in the air. We're still hovering here for a playoff spot, but I don't know how serious of contenders we are. I wish we had a little more time to see how we would fare. This episode very good at 10-5-2, and maybe that sets us up to make a playoff run. But thank you so much for watching, and as always, it's been real, and be well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.